Wait a minute. Did James Charles seriously just try and return to the internet with a makeup tutorial? And I'm not talking about this type of tutorial. It's a mess, so let's get into it. So, James Charles has been kind of off the internet for a while now. I say kinda because he honestly hasn't been offline at all. He's been liking tweets, he came back for his birthday, came back to talk about the lawsuit drama, and then came back to like Tati's return video. Now, you would think someone who is caught messaging not one, not two, but possibly a lot of fans would probably take things a little bit more seriously. I mean, we have Jenna Marbles, who removed herself from the internet completely, Tati Westbrook, who left for an entire year, and then there's James Charles. On April 1st, James posted a video titled "Holding Myself Accountable." In that video, he addressed the stories against him and pretty much said that he should have been checking IDs before talking to people and blamed his negligence on desperation.
It sucks and it is ridiculously embarrassing to admit this, but I think I have to, and that is that I'm desperate.
Yeah, you really can't make that one up. James said he thought during the day he could be James Charles, the influencer with millions of followers, and automatically switch off and just be James Dickinson. What he didn't realize was that using your fans as your own personal dating pool comes with a huge power imbalance. I mean, there's a reason you see A-list celebrities only dating other celebrities. After posting that video, James got a ton of backlash. He said he was going to be taking some time off to speak with professionals and take some time to himself. Now, let me just tell you guys, back in March and April, this James Charles story turned into a huge mess. More and more people started to come forward, and there was actually a list on Twitter showing over 17 people who had stories about James. There was a lot of discussion around whether or not every single story was true or not, because 2 had already been disproven and they had to issue apologies. Then, James came back to the internet once again and blamed these fake stories for him stepping down from Morphe. He wrote, "Since posting that video, many other people have come forward with a series of misleading stories and false accusations, which have been reported on by many people, creators, and news outlets. My legal team has begun taking action against those that have spread misinformation and or created completely false stories, as this has gone too far. These stories have caused many of my long-term partners to receive considerable negative feedback, one of them being Morphe. That being said, I reached out to them and we mutually agreed to wind down our James Charles x Morphe collaboration." A lot of people found it kind of weird that he was blaming the fake stories for his Morphe breakup when there were still very real ones out there that he admitted to on camera in front of millions of people. It's been 3 months now, and James Charles finally returned to YouTube. I don't know what's going on, but I swear Frenemies ending literally brought everyone out of hiding. Like, what's next? Shane Dawson? James posted a video titled "An Open Conversation," which included an extremely photoshopped, happy-looking James Charles as the thumbnail and a description that read, "Hi sisters, a long time no see. After a lot of self-reflection and many conversations with friends, family, role models in my industry, and professionals, I've come to terms with several issues I've been ignoring for a long time now. In today's video, I want to have an honest conversation and hope to answer some questions, share my progress, and talk about what I've been up to over the past couple of months with anyone who wants to listen." James starts off the video by saying his last video was titled "Holding Myself Accountable," so he felt like it was necessary to leave the internet and actually hold himself accountable. He decided to do his makeup while talking because he said in his last video he got a ton of negative feedback over the video feeling scripted and not sincere. He made note that he didn't want the makeup to take away from the seriousness of the topic, but I mean, it's kind of hard to focus on the topic while he's applying foundation to his ears. James said when everything first started to come out, his first initial reaction was to pull a No More Lies style of video and sit down and show all the receipts and get his side out there. He said in No More Lies he proved himself innocent and totally cleared his name, but I mean, did he really? A lot of people have been reflecting on the whole Bi Sister situation and realizing there were a lot of truths in Tati's video. Anyways, James eventually came to the realization that maybe a No More Lies style of video wouldn't be the best fit because at the end of the day, he was the adult in the situation and he should have taken the extra steps to confirm these people's ages. James said this has been the biggest wake-up call of his life and also the most embarrassing thing to ever happened to him. Now, personally, I would have thought losing 3 million subscribers would have been a big enough wake-up call, but apparently not. James claims that ever since the bi-sister situation, he's done a ton of work on himself, the way he dates, and a lot of work on rebuilding his brand and growing. He recognizes that this has now set him back and probably looks like he hasn't changed at all since 2019. He states he's aware that this isn't something that he can just move on from, and he knows that what happened will probably always be attached to his name. At the same time though, he hopes in the weeks, months, or years down the line, he can showcase his growth to his audience. Then, James moved on to the alleged fake stories. James said once he announced that he was stepping away from the internet, he feels like people really took advantage of his break and decided it would be a perfect time to release fake stories with fake screenshots about him. James called out Def Noodles without actually saying his name for putting together a thread on Twitter of anyone and everyone who came forward about James. He said the thread got so popular that it was eventually coined the 20 victims of James Charles. James called this claim totally inaccurate. James goes on to say there was also videos made on him that were completely false. He's not talking about the guys who send him messages, then screenshot it for a TikTok. He's talking about completely made up conversations. Obviously, that's totally wrong, and it completely takes away from the real stories because the focus shifts from the real stories to, oh, people are making up stories about James, poor him. It's not good for anyone involved. James goes on to acknowledge why so many people keep saying that there's a pattern with him, and it's because there is. He said he's been making himself so easily accessible to people on these dating apps in hopes to find love that he failed to realize that also opened him up to the people who don't have the best intentions and just want to lie and take advantage of him. He talked about how making videos showing your conversations with James Charles kind of became a meme online. And while he does realize that's his own fault for having these conversations in the first place, at the same time, he feels like he deserves privacy. He said it feels embarrassing and dehumanizing to have a conversation with someone only to scroll down your For You page on TikTok a few hours later and see all those conversations on display for everyone. James said someone could be getting a few thousand views on their videos, and as soon as they make a video titled "My Experience with James Charles," they get millions of views instantly. He said it's gone from people sharing private conversations to people making up completely fake conversations with incriminating stories about him to go viral, and no one thinks twice about it before sharing it. James said in the last video he made, he wasn't guilty of what he was being accused of, but he wasn't innocent either. He admitted that he needed to make a lot of changes, and he doesn't want to invalidate those people, but at the same time, you can't be a victim of something that didn't happen. As far as progress goes, James said he's already started asking guys for IDs before he even starts talking to them, and explained that he's taken steps to date safer and smarter. He revealed that even though he's been more cautious, at the same time he still wants to find love. He said he's tried Tinder, Hinge, and even a celebrity dating app like people suggested. Apparently, he's been banned from them all for catfishing as himself, and he can't even get back onto them. A lot of people have been telling James, like, you just need to date a celebrity. But according to James, that's not even an option right now. His dating range is from 20 to 25 years old, and everyone in that range around him in the influencer world are his friends. James said he doesn't know who his perfect person is, and he's going to be more careful, but he still wants to meet people, have experiences, and find love. The rest of his video is just about his vacations that he went on for his birthday while he was on his little break and catching up on his life. He also used Manny MUA's new eyeshadow palette, which was kind of weird because a lot of people assume Manny was distancing himself from James. Manny made a whole video talking about Teddy Fresh and Frenemies being his favorite podcast, and as we know, Frenemies made a lot of videos about his bestie, James. I kind of got the feeling James was using that palette as his way of saying, oh my god, look guys, me and Manny are still cool. I also gotta say, the whole video was so different from his first one. It almost contradicts what he even said in the first one, where he actually admitted to doing things, and then in this one said things like this.
And after what felt like weeks of somebody new coming forward every single day, it eventually became the 20 victims of James Charles. But I do feel as though I have to say something because I am just not comfortable with this video or really any video moving forward allowing anybody, let alone my followers, to think that there are any victims of James Charles, let alone 20 victims of James Charles, because that is completely, unequivocally not true.
Of course, the response right away was like overwhelmingly positive. In the first few hours, you really couldn't find a negative comment. Even right now, an entire day later, the like to dislike ratio is overwhelmingly positive, and you even have people commenting on that, saying things like, the like to dislike ratio is terrifying. The fact that this has more likes than dislikes is deeply concerning. And it is concerning. You have this influencer with a huge fan base of young teens who is just like completely irresponsible in how he handles his power. I don't know why it seems like such a huge issue for only James Charles that he keeps running into this problem over and over again. I mean, there's other creators on the platform like ManYumUA, Joey Graceffa, Gabriel Zamora, Bretman Rock, and I could go on. And you don't hear about them having the same issues James has. I think a lot of fans of James have this soft spot for him where they actually feel bad because he's being tricked. But how come no one else in the community is having the same issues? You would think Bye Sister would have been the biggest wake-up call of James's life. He was accused of similar things, apparently proved them to be false, and went on to have a thriving career. The fact that he keeps putting himself in jeopardy time and time again is so concerning. What's even more concerning is the fact that after Bye Sister, people were scared to call James out when stories like this started to pop up post-2019. It was always, oh, poor James, excuses for James, feeling bad for James. I think that kind of dismissal of wrongdoing really made James feel untouchable, and in return, he acted recklessly. The comments under James' video started off really positive, but now they're starting to switch. This doesn't sit right with me. I gotta trust my gut. I don't trust him. I don't think he realizes how easy he gets away with things, and that's part of the reason he keeps getting into scandals. Is it just me who hates how innocent he's trying to come off? This is by far the most embarrassing thing to ever happen to me. Yeah, that sums up James's attitude through this video. To make the situation even worse, James actually deleted his holding myself accountable video. The video where he admitted to what he was doing is now wiped from his channel. Instead, we got this video where honestly, if I was watching James for the first time, it would sound like what happened was a lie. That's concerning. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about everything down below. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button because it really does help my channel, and I'll see you next time.